Good evening. Here we are, Exodus chapter 8 for our Old Testament studies tonight. Working our way through the plagues. Verse 1, chapter 8, Exodus. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. This is still the pattern how it works today in the New Testament. The Lord's got to speak to the preachers got to speak to the people, and the message is to the devil and the world to let God's people go, that they can worship Him, serve Him. That's the gospel. If you'll refuse to let them go, behold, I'm going to smite all thy borders with frogs, thus saith the Lord. There's going to be frogs everywhere, and the river will bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into your house, into your bedchamber, upon your bed, into your house of your servants, upon your people, into your ovens, into your netting troughs. And the frogs will come up both on you and upon your people and upon all thy servants. And the Lord spake to Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up, and they covered the land of Egypt. Now, remember, everything Moses and Aaron's been doing so far, technically what God's been doing through Moses and Aaron, the devil, the counterfeit, does the same thing through his magicians in Egypt. So it's like cutting your nose off a spotty face. There's frogs coming up everywhere, and the magician says, we can do that. And there's two powers in the world. It started out with the staff turned into a snake. The magicians did it too, but God's snake ate up their snake. The magicians did so with their enchantments, and they brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt, like they needed some more. If they really wanted to do something good, you'd think they would have got rid of the frogs, but they didn't have that power. They could only make things worse, which is what the devil always did. The other way, they'd been like they'd been doing something good, wouldn't it? So then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord, pray to the Lord, he's saying, that he'll take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let thy people go. That's what they've been wanting him to say, that they may go sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses said to Pharaoh, Glory over me. When shall I? Moses probably thought, did he just say what I thought he said? He was going to let him go? And Moses thought, wait a minute, when are you going to let him go? When shall I entreat for thee and for thy servants, for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee and from thy houses, that they remain in the river only, the way they were supposed to be? And then Pharaoh says something astonishing. What would you have said? I hope you would have said, now. Because remember, now is the accepted time with God. Today is the day of salvation. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for you don't know what a day may bring forth. But Pharaoh says, pray to the Lord that he get rid of these frogs. And Moses says, when? And Pharaoh says, tomorrow. So he had to go home that night and crawl back into a bed with frogs all over the bed, and the bed chambers, and the netting troughs, and the ovens, and everything else. He wanted to spend one more night with the frogs. And that's the way a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of teaching in that verse about human nature. A lot of people, maybe you're one of them, they're going to get right with God. When? Right now? No, maybe tomorrow. They just want to spend one more night with the frogs, I guess, and hope that they get it tomorrow. Boast not thyself of tomorrow. And he said, tomorrow. Verse 10, he said, Be it according to thy word, that thou, Moses says now, I think, Be it according to thy word, that thou mayest know that there's none like unto the Lord our God. And the frogs will depart from thee, and from your houses, from your servants, from your people, they'll remain in the river only. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. Which wondered what Moses and Aaron's conversation is after they went out of the building, out of the presence of Pharaoh. Can you believe that? He's going to turn God's people over, going to pray. But wonder why he wanted to wait till tomorrow. Ain't that the craziest thing? So Moses prays that God takes the frogs away tomorrow. And verse 13 it says, The Lord did according to the word of Moses. Now, here's something for you here too. Everybody wants the Lord to do according to what they want him to do, right? Well, keep in mind that the Lord was doing according to the word of Moses, because first Moses had been doing according to the word of the Lord. If you want God to help you out from time to time, then serve the Lord. Do what God tells you to do all the time. Maybe God will listen to you. The Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, out of the fields, and they gathered them together upon heaps. There's just big piles of dead frogs everywhere, and the whole land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite or relief, he hardened his heart. Now, sometimes it said God hardened his heart. Now we're getting to the part that says he hardened his heart. I said before, it's all the same thing in God's foreknowledge. Every time he rebels against God, his heart gets a little harder. He hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. He said he wouldn't listen. By his foreknowledge, God knew that. And the Lord said to Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out your rod. Now we're going to come for another plague. You know, every time Pharaoh rebels and smites, God smites him with another plague. Lord said to Moses, say unto Aaron, verse 16, stretch out your rod and smite the dust of the land, that it become lice. Some versions say fleas, but little critters. Either one of them is bad. There's bazillions of them. Crawl them all over you. Sometimes people call them even, they're no-see-ums. There's little things eating you up and you can't even see them. And it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod. He smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. And all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Comes the crazy thing again. The magicians were going to do the same thing. And the magicians said, we can do that. But they couldn't. The magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. Now we've come to a part where they couldn't replicate what God has been doing here. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. If I'd been Pharaoh, I'd have told them magicians every time they multiplied frogs or flies or something else, like water to blood. He said, that don't impress me much. Can you do away with them? But they couldn't do that. They could only imitate what God was doing. They could not. So there was lice upon man and upon beast. Verse 19, then the magicians said to Pharaoh, basically they said, we give up. This is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said to Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he comes forth to water. You know, every day he comes down there to take a bath first thing in the morning at the Nile. Said, you be waiting on him in the morning, Moses. You get up early and be there before he gets there. And when he comes by, you say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. How many times are you going to have to say that to Pharaoh? I can tell you, 10 times at least. Else if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I'll send swarms of flies upon thee. Probably plenty of flies already from all the stinking dead frogs everywhere. But I'll send swarms of flies upon thee and upon thy servants, and upon your people, and to your houses. The houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground where they are. Now something new is going to happen though, verse 22. God says, and I will sever in that day in the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell. Remember the Israelites, they lived down there in the grassy bottoms along the Nile where they had their sheep years ago in the land of Goshen. God says, I'm going to make a distinction between them and the devil's crowd up here, you Egyptians. I'm going to sever in that day that no swarms of flies will be there. The judgment's not going to come upon my people. Now, in the middle margin of this Bible, it has a footnote that sever in verse 22 is literally a Hebrew word which means ransom. I will ransom my people between your people. And here we get a glimpse once again. There is a division, that's good. Well, verse 23 is where it goes. I'll put a division between my people and thy people. There is a division today on this earth between God's people and the devil's crowd. There's two families. John 8:44. Jesus told them, the religious leaders that were rebelling and rejected him, trying to kill him in that day, he said, you are of your father the devil. They were saying, oh, we belong to Abraham. We're descendants of Abraham. And Jesus said, no, you're of your father the devil. You do the same kind of things that he does. You come to steal, kill, and destroy. But read it in John. You run across the word division so many times. Wherever Jesus went, there was a division, because there's always going to be people that receive Christ and people who reject Christ, and that makes a division. But the division is caused ultimately because Christ was the ransom that was paid. He died in behalf of humanity. Some will receive, some will reject, and that makes that division. God says, I'll put division between my people and thy people, Pharaoh, is a type of the devil in that day. There's two families. Either you're on one or the other one. There ain't no in between. Either you've trusted Christ and you're in the family of God, or you've rejected the gospel and you're in the family of the devil. Now, I've got good news for you, though. If you're in the family of the devil, it's not too late. If you're listening to me right now, you can still change sides. God's in the business of letting people change sides and get on the winning side. That's just by receipt. That's just saying, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I've rebelled against you all my life, and now I'm going to get on your side, because God's on your side, friend, but he wants you to get on his side. It's up to your own free will, your choice. He put a division between my people and thy people, verse 23. And tomorrow shall this sign be. The judgment's not going to come on God's people. We've been studying Revelation. You notice that through there too, in the end times, when the judgments are being poured out upon the earth. There's always that distinction, like do not hurt those that have the seal of God in their forehead. That judgment is not for God's people, it's for the devil's crowd. Verse 24, and the Lord did so. And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. And Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron, same song, different verse, and he said, go. Sounds like he's going to give up now. Don't go, you sacrifice to your God in the land. They want to go 3 days out of the land and sacrifice and get away from them Egyptians to worship God, right? And Pharaoh's kind of doing what the devil says to the church today. Just compromise with me a little bit. I give you what you want, but you just don't get too far away from me. Just compromise with me. And Moses said, it's not proper to do so. For we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. Lo, shall we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, and they'll stone us. We can't worship around that crowd. They'll be throwing rocks at us. He says, we'll go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God, as he shall command us. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go, that you may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only you shall not go very far away. Don't get too far away from me, the devil says. You can go to church. Don't get too far away from me, though. Keep 1 foot in the world. And Pharaoh says, pray for me again. I've run into people like that my whole Christian life. They'll know that they ain't right with God or something. They'll say, just pray for me. Well, get right with God and pray for yourself. That's the good news. And Moses said, behold, I go out from thee. Verse 29, I will entreat the Lord that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, from his people, tomorrow. Not now. Tomorrow, like Pharaoh wanted with the frogs. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore. It's the way the devil always does. He deals with deceit. He'll paint a pretty picture to you of sin, and you find out it was, in the long run, it was just a deceitful thing. Don't let Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore, and not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh, and he entreated the Lord. He prayed to the Lord, and the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, from his people. There remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also. Neither would he let the people go. His heart got harder and harder. Now I'm going to close with one bit of good news for you. If you'd really like the Lord to do what you want him to do, I can tell you one prayer that the Lord will always do what you want him to do. If you come to him in repentant faith and say, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I'm trusting in Jesus and want to be saved. He never says no to that one. See you next time.